Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's live cast of The Nap Show, where me and three of my friends get together and we talk about technology and how it affects our lives and what we do with it and how we think about tech. And we've had many discussions over the last 3 months on different tech topics. And today our topic is tech annoyances, the little things that exasperate us every time we encounter them in the tech world. And I don't know if we're going to talk about how we solve those, but we're going to grumble a little bit today about what annoys us. And today I'm joined by the usual four of us, or it's actually me and three others. Where are we?
Number 5.
Yeah. Except we can't see them on the screen. Ray, come on, let's go. There we go.
I was admiring one of my tech annoyances is like bad green screen, so I was like admiring your outline.
Uh-huh. Yeah, like the hair.
No, just like you have a very harsh outline today for some reason.
Oh, well, that's our first tech annoyance, and we haven't even got started.
I know.
So today is the last episode of this season. I would like to take 1 minute to call out one person on this person, the four people here on the screen that's been the most responsible for making NAP, Not a Podcast, happen. That, of course, is Ray Villalobos. He's the pioneer of this. He brought it together. He told us about it, and we all joined him, and it's been awesome. Thank you, Ray.
That's a lot of fun. I think we learned a lot, and it's really nice to have seen, some of you guys like coming up with alternative shows. I think we're probably going to see more in the future. And the other day, as I was going through what we have done, I actually was playing episode 1, and the difference is crazy. Like, we started out just randomly talking and not knowing if we were even on, like in that episode 1. You should go take a look at it because it's hilarious. Like, it was like, are we on? I don't know. It was zero. You gotta check it out.
Yeah. So, and then I don't know if you know, but Morton's got his own show and tell live show. It's every Tuesday. Is that right?
Every week at random times. So I'm coming on tomorrow at I think 10 a.m. Vancouver time with a friend of mine who builds instruments, like literally invents new instruments. So he's going to do some show and tell. I have no idea what he's going to do. So
do you have a hashtag for the show, Morton?
Sorry?
Do you have like a hashtag or something for the show so people know where to aggregate?
Yeah, it's like hashtag.
Really?
No, that's an annoyance right there.
It's just,
there you go.
It's just show and tell. I'll come up with something smart.
Got it.
Well, here's one I was just thinking about like 30 seconds ago. And this is not one of my official tech annoyances, but I just happened to think about it while we were talking, is that's the 90-day password refresh that you have to do in big tech companies, even though the recommendation now is to not have people refresh their password so often. And I thought about that because mine's due to refresh this week.
Just to use a password manager, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I do. It's
Click
just
the button.
Anyway, let's not go there.
I lock myself out of my work computer every time I do a password refresh.
Well, yeah, for me, it's like
I have to call them. And they go to a help desk, and I'm like, I'm in Vancouver. We don't have an office in Vancouver. Yeah, you do. It's my house. Come to my house and fix it.
Right. It's like every time you do it, it takes like 2 or 3 days to percolate through all of your other apps, and like, oh, you haven't logged into this one for a couple of days, and now you have to remember to enter your new password. Anyway, Morton.
Before we go on, Morton, people are going nuts in the comments. They're wondering if it's hashtag, or is that's pound or pound H?
Hashtag.
All right.
It's hashtag. That's the answer.
I'm sure there will be nothing on that hashtag.
Right.
No spam or anything.
So let's start with Morton, since he's been vocal about his hashtag. Morton, what's one of your or more pet annoyances about tech?
My number one pet annoyance on tech is old tutorials and how they cause people to use old standards when new standards exist. You see it all the time that tutorials are published and then the technology advances, but then some tutorials almost become canon. So everyone refers to them, and then new tutorials are written based on the old ones, and standards are established that don't make any sense because the technology has moved on. I personally get very frustrated whenever I read JavaScript tutorials and they use things like get element by ID or get element by class as the selector, because that's not like, there are cases where you should use that, but in most cases you should just use query selector or query selector all is much easier. There are a lot of CSS tutorials that use old formatting for things that we did like 5 years ago. Still today, we still have these questions that make no sense. Like people follow tutorials and then they end up with problems because the new version of CSS or JavaScript or whatever does things differently, so it doesn't work that way anymore. And I think tutorial authors have a responsibility to understand that when they write tutorials, once those tutorials become canon, they need to be updated, and they never do. Just no one ever does. I mean, I'm guilty of this too. If you go to my blog, you'll find articles from like 6 or 7 years ago that have incorrect information. So I've taken it upon myself this summer to go and cull a lot of the content, even though it's super popular, just because the stuff I wrote about back then isn't accurate anymore. And I don't have the time or the interest in writing a new version of it. So I'm just going to deprecate the content just to make people understand that this isn't the way to do it. So yeah.
That's a good point, but sometimes like the problem is like that the links actually just point to old content. So people mark the links and you just end up in, some sort of older content, and there's not a lot that you can do because what are you going to do?
And you get these weird conventions that happen, right? Where some new technology comes out and then someone writes an article about it and a tutorial and they make an example. And then that example becomes the default way of doing things, even though that's not the right way of doing it. It's just like, it just becomes the default. So in WordPress, there's a good example of this, which is when the block editor was being developed called Gutenberg, a man named Ahmad Awes wrote this really cool package that's called Create Gutenblock, which is a WordPress take on Create React's app, right? And everyone refers to Create Gutenblock as the tool to use to build Gutenberg blocks. The problem is WordPress actually has its own package for doing this now, which works way better and is updated constantly and is packaged inside of WordPress, so you don't even need to install anything. And that does things the way that WordPress expects, whereas Create Gutenblock does things in a beta way of doing things, right? Yet all the tutorials that are written tend to refer to Create Gutenblock, even though that's not the right way to do it anymore. It's our way of doing it, but it's definitely not the way that you should be doing it. And it's also a very complicated way of doing things, whereas WordPress provides a much easier way of doing things. And you see this in everything. You see it in how CSS Grid is used. You see it in how responsive images is used. You see it in how modern JavaScript is written. You see it in how React is written, like this React props thing that everyone keeps importing all properties from an object when they only need one. Like there are all these standard conventions that just drive me crazy because you can find the original article they stem from, and that article is often just a random tutorial that never was considered to be best practice. It was just a tutorial.
Yeah, we also work in this like universe where like you and I specifically, Morton, that we do a lot of courses for things that change constantly, like Angular, for example, is like on a major revision every 6 month cycle, which is just insane. So literally, sometimes as soon as you push a course, like the course is already old because by the time it comes out, it's already upgraded into a new version. So that's like also a problem, I think, within the industry. They're just a little bit too crazy. And also like Angular specifically used to have this issue with just randomly breaking changes. and a new version. So it's definitely an issue.
What John Shaw is saying in the comments, keeping up with tech changes is physically impossible. That's part of the problem, that we are in an environment where things evolve extremely fast all the time. And once you figure out how something works, it makes total sense to keep doing the thing that works, right? The difficult part is for people to know when is the right time to change, right? When is the right time to update? And how do I assign time to learn how to do the new thing? Because if you have an established process and you need to change the process to upgrade to whatever is new, you need to know that that new thing is in fact the thing that's going to be the new thing, right? Referring back to Walt's conversation last week, that sometimes you bet on technology. So then you end up with the thing like Flexbox was live in the world for like 5 years before people started using it aggressively, because it was such a new thing that it required rewriting all your CSS, and people were concerned about it not rolling out. The result of that was the browsers weren't rolling it out because no one was using it. So you have this mechanism within the system that counteracts itself. So we have evolution, but the evolution never happens because people don't use it, because they're afraid of using it, because no one is using it, and all the tutorials are telling you to use the old stuff instead of the new stuff. And
yeah, it's a circular problem. Wow, that's a good one. And I had brought up like 3 other annoyances I think of, but we don't have time to talk about it. We should do another show on this next.
I have spoken. Move on.
Ray, so I understand you've got one or two items that bother you every time you encounter them.
Yeah, so for me, like the biggest thing is that you guys know that I have chickens at home, and one thing that I really learned about them was that there's a saying called the chicken pecking order, or the pecking order, and I had no idea what that meant until I got chickens. Chickens literally have a pecking order. If you put like say 10 chickens together, they start pecking each other aggressively until they figure out that when you feed them, the top chicken gets to eat first, and then there's an order that they have to eat in, and the poor like chickens at the bottom of the pecking order to see whenever anybody everybody else is done eating. It's just really weird, but it totally happens. And I think that sometimes in technology we kind of have a similar thing where when a new engineer comes into a team, everybody has to figure out where they stand in terms of knowledge and technology. And that super annoys me, because I'm not sort of like the type of person, I feel like I'm not the type of person that likes to sort of rank myself. I feel like that's not really necessary, but a lot of engineers will come in and then just start pounding you with questions. And instead of sort of mentoring you and helping you develop as a better engineer, I feel like they try to sort of figure out where you are on the pecking order so that they can maintain their dominance over other people. And there are a few things that make my blood boil more than when I notice that happening, because it's really something that I'm not about, and just drives me crazy.
Are you suggesting social structure and corporate structure is somehow not conducive to upwards mobility? I feel like you're encroaching on my territory of socialism here a little bit.
I don't know about that, but definitely I can't stand it. Like I really have a hard time when I notice it, and I'm not sure how to deal with that other than, just letting people know that, yes, I am knowledgeable. I'm not here, for XYZ reason. I'm here because I know what I'm doing, and you don't need to be talking down to me and telling me, assuming that I don't know things that I clearly have a lot of experience with. And so anyways, that's just like my pet peeve is when they do that to anybody, but specifically when they start questioning my talent and skills, and this is really not, like I said, something that I enjoy or that I'm about. So anyways.
Isn't like a related topic there is like gatekeeping? It's like, we don't want people to come into our community. And so we're going to like basically check you for your talent to make sure you fit.
And there's this massive meritocracy fallacy embodied in all of it, like embedded under all this, which is just
I see another show in our future.
An entire community based around a philosophy that was literally designed to mock the idea, right? Like the term meritocracy was designed to show how toxic that way of thinking is.
Mhm.
And we've built an entire tech community around that idea, somehow thinking that it's smart. So.
Yeah, I think it's gotten maybe better lately, but still, that used to really kind of, when I joined a company, it really happens then when you join a company and you start talking to people, they're sort of immediately trying to size you up, and it's really super annoying because I just want to tell them I wouldn't be here if I didn't belong here. I know what I'm doing. You should go look at my experience before you start asking me stupid questions. Because I don't want to sit here and have to tell you like my experience and background. I went through that application process just like you did. See, like I'm already getting upset about this. and there's no need. And really, like the thing is, like it's not in my nature to do that, to like sit there and tell people what I'm capable of. So when they try to like squeeze it out of me, it just begins to burn, burn in my passion. So don't do that to me. Anyways.
Thanks, Ray. Thank you. Sharon, I think you just had a tech annoyance while we started this live cast. We can't hear you.
Still have a tech.
Yeah, I can hear. I can hear you, Sharon. You're good.
Okay. Can anybody else? Okay.
Yes.
Now I can hear you.
Okay, we'll go for it. Okay. My system just shut down on me, rebooted, and decided to do an update at the same time, which was awesome. So it's sitting there asking me, to log on to the new Edge. So I grabbed another system and I'm off to the races. But I want to follow up on Ray. You made a really good point about people talking down to you, or you having to prove yourself when you go into a new org. I find in the same space that people have I'm going to call it a God complex. And all of a sudden, they've forgotten what it's like to do something very simple. And, and then you're made to feel inadequate, because you didn't know how to set up an Azure VM, whatever it is. And I have a real problem with that. We should be helping each other, not elevating ourselves. Elevate everybody. That's my big tech issue in this, or my big issue in this tech space. It drives me nuts. I hate going to presentations. You ask a question, they go, well, I don't know. Or what do you mean you don't know about that? What do you mean? I'm asking a question. I'm looking for help. And I don't want to be belittled or made fun of or made to feel inadequate because I didn't know something simple. We all start from somewhere. That's my big tech annoyance.
Yeah, and even sometimes it's like you know the answer, but you didn't know that there's going to be a quiz. Like nobody told me that there's a pop quiz today, and it's like, why do we like? It really has nothing to do with what we're trying to accomplish. Can we like actually just move on to the thing? Anyways.
Yeah, and then there's the whole tech interview process of checking out your esoteric knowledge of some certain API or. And that you'll never use in your real job. I know there's been a lot of conversations in our industry about how do we do better tech interviews especially for programmers. I don't know if it's the same. Go ahead.
No, finish.
No, that was it.
Yeah, I think there is because there's so much competition in our environment. There is this constant feeling of you need to protect your own turf all the time, right? I remember I was talking to a medical student many years ago. I forget where this was. Somewhere in Europe, the university had discovered that the med students would actively try to take out books from the library and stuff to limit the access for other students so that they would have some nugget of information that the other students didn't have so that they could excel at exams. And they did this experiment where they made med school pass-fail, which sounds insane unless you actually then go test them afterwards and you discover that the students that went through pass-fail had a better understanding of the subject matter because they didn't have the competition internally. So they were less focused on the competition than actually just doing the job. And I think a healthy work environment is an environment that deals with both of the things that you two are talking about, where both the idea of pecking order and turf wars, but also this idea of your job is to make sure that everyone around you also does their job to the best of their abilities. And that means constantly helping people out. and never putting people in a situation where you put yourself on top and you're like, no, all of you other people do this, but I'm the boss, or I'm, and yeah, I think part of it is just developer goggles. You get so used to doing things that you forget what it was like to not know how to do it. And then once you encounter someone who doesn't know, you're like, how do you not know this? I mean, I've known this forever. But the other part is not being cognizant of the fact that your responsibility is to make sure everyone else also excels.
I think every one of us on this call, since we teach topics at LinkedIn Learning, we have to deal with that all the time. What do we know that we forgot we know? And when you're trying to explain a topic, getting back to the basics and saying, oh, I've skipped over 3 steps here because I've done it so many times.
So Sharon, what do you do when you encounter this kind of stuff?
It depends on the environment, to be honest with you. Sometimes I get a little angry and I will voice my opinion very loudly. Other times I just bluff it off and walk away and then curse and vent about it later on. It's tough. It really is, because you don't want to call somebody out in that space usually, especially if they're presenting or if it's a lecture. I don't like calling them out in that space. If it's more of a private one-on-one, then I have no problem calling them out, and I will happily do it.
I think talking about mistakes, like I made the mistake of one time sort of talking to an employee in front of other people, and he pulled me to the side and he gave me one of the greatest pieces of advice and told me, hey, can make sure that when you want to call me out, that you do it on a one-on-one basis. And that's kind of my approach today, because, I think like I used to grin and bear it and sit there and take the quiz, just go through, okay, let's do this. What do you want to know about it? Quiz me about, whatever, triple left joins or whatever you want to talk about in SQL. And now I try to do that. I try to take it offline, because my first reaction to this is just get really, really testy and snap back at people. And then, so now I try to go, let's just take this offline and talk about this. If you have some questions, talk to me directly. We don't need to do this like in a meeting or in front of other people. And I feel that diffuses the situation, because once you sort of let people know that they're being jerks, then you can have a more rational conversation with somebody. So
calling in versus calling out. There's lots of good literature on this subject.
So my next tech annoyance is the PC I was using has just gone into the blue screen of death.
Oh, no.
I'm looking at it on the floor going, oh man.
No, you're having a day. You're going to have...
it's still a thing, the blue screen.
Yeah. Oh, my new NordiTrack rower that just showed up. I like literally showed up a couple hours ago. We set it up. It needed to do an update. Now it's dead in the water too. You know what? I'm just having a bad tech day.
You need to go outside, enjoy the sun or rain or snow or whatever it is you have right now, and just not be anywhere near electronics for a while.
I agree.
Isn't it annoying, like when you get those update requests that never, technically the phone is supposed to update overnight, but then it's like 2 weeks later and it's still telling you that it never updated? Like, what happened? You've had a whole 2 weeks. It takes like 30 seconds to do the update. Why do you keep telling me that you're going to try again tonight? Just get it done, computer.
Because I always get that alert when I'm doing something important. Like I'm on a call or whatever, and it's like, do you want to update? 59 seconds to go, 58, 57. I'm like, stop. What are you doing? Postpone until next year. Never update again.
It's running fine. There's nothing wrong with the thing. It's a stop.
What do you mean OS 11? I have OS 9.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I picked a whole different area for my annoyances. And so I do UI development sometimes. I pick 3 things that frustrate me when I see them in UI, and it's desktop or web, either one. So I've got a quick demo of those. If you want to share my screen, Ray.
I'm trying to share your screen. Hold on a second. Let me change the layout here. There we go.
There we go. Yeah, so the first one is, okay, I'm going to have to switch screens. Hold on a second. Let's move this over here. Now I can't see the podcast, but that's okay. So the the dial or the screen that you have on this, you've got a large monitor, some sort of screen pops up, and it's just a little bit too small. The content of it is just a little bit too small, so the developer puts some scroll bars on it, even though it's only like an 10%. If they made the dial like 10% larger, you could see it. And in this case, a lot of times they make it so you can't resize it, you can't maximize it. You're stuck with this size, so you have to scroll down to see the bottom or scroll over to see the edge. Whereas if you just made it resizable and hide the scroll bars when it gets big enough.
Hey, Walt.
Yes.
All I'm seeing is a gray screen.
Really?
I see the Peeves demos. Is that what you are showing?
I'm showing the whole application, but it's not showing the other
I
screen.
think you've found a bug in the screen share software.
I see the
We
the
just see a
live
little
demo.
word in the top corner that says Peeves.
That's it.
demo.
It's disappeared.
That's it.
I just turned it off. So let's try that again.
You know, it's really annoying live demos. They always go wrong.
You did not sacrifice the right code to the right demo god, my friend.
Okay, so let's try this again. Share screen one more time. Annoyances. Share.
There we go.
Maybe I should just share the whole screen. How about I do? Wait, hold on. This is like every presentation ever. I'm going to share the whole screen. Let's just do that. Share.
Johnny
Screen?
Shaw says, "Oh, hold on, I gotta put
This
this
is
one
actually
up."
all planned in advance.
When someone thinks we see their screen, but you don't.
It's
Yes.
not. Share.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Are you ready for me to add? I see. Okay, I'm going to add it to stream. There we go.
It's still gray.
I think it's just you more
Do you
than
Oh, there we
see,
go.
you see this now?
Yes. The little dumb not
Yeah.
resizable.
So this is, dumb not resizable, right? So this was the thing. It's like, it's just a little bit too small, so you have to scroll down to see the screen. And you notice there's no maximize button, there's no resize button, you can't resize the edge of it, so you're stuck annoyingly every time you use this window. Like, it's too small! And like I said, the solution is you just make it resizable, let the user have control over this, and then in my case, you don't want to have the scroll bars all the time, so when you do resize it, take the scroll bars away when it gets big enough. The second one is when you have a dialog. So here you are, you've got some website or some file you want to delete. In this case, it's a list of domains. I want to delete one of these domains, so I click on the delete button. A dialog pops up, and you notice it's obscuring what's in the background. You can't see it, and it says, do you want to delete this domain? And I'm like, caution, it's permanent. Oh, wait a minute, what domain was that again? I don't know. I have to go back and look. Oh, I want to delete this one. Okay. Again, it doesn't tell you. So the solution for this is always tell your user what it is you're deleting. So
yeah, I like how GitHub does that with repos, where if you want to delete a repo, it goes to delete the repo, you have to type in the name of the repo.
I agree. That's a great solution.
Just so that you have to actively do something to say like, no, I'm really deleting my code here. It's not just.
I'm not deleting the wrong one.
Yeah.
And so that's another one. And my third one, I see this especially prevalent in websites. So here you are. You want to enter your credit card number, or they ask you to enter your credit card number or an invoice number or whatever. And it's hard to read. So as the user, you'd like to be able to put a space here. Oh, sorry, no spaces allowed. Okay, how about a hyphen? Nope, no punctuation allowed. And the reason this happens is because programmers need clean data. They need a string that looks like this, right, in their database or whatever. And so they have to strip out, they can't have any hyphens or parentheses or spaces or whatever. But it's like 1 or 2 lines of code to fix this. All you need to do, it's like, I can still put these spaces in here or a hyphen in here or parentheses in here. So, and add numbers to this and I can still get the data, right, in a non-formatted format, if I'm saying that right. So that's this one annoys me more than any of the other two. I mean, because I see it on every telephone number you enter on the internet, on every credit card. It's like, it must be 16 characters, no spaces, no hyphens. So I'm done ranting.
Your pet peeve is lazy developers.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
You know what? Also, there's a couple of quick ones for me too. I hate when developers have like 2030 vision and they have like 3-point type in their development screen, so they program everything to be like for magnifying glass required. I mean, I can't stand that. Also, like when fonts get smaller on smaller devices, that drives me nuts. Like instead of getting bigger because you're looking at it on a smaller device, they get smaller, and you're like, the screen's this big. Like the font getting smaller makes no sense. Anyways, as I'm getting older.
No, I totally agree. And the whole accessibility, that's also plays into accessibility. Not thinking about accessibility when you're building your applications. We could do a couple hours on UI problems, but we have run out of time.
Well,
Yeah. What was that last quote? Perfect example of user-centric design versus developer desires. Yes, I totally agree.
remember the path at our home office where they designed like this road that you're supposed to walk on, and then there's this like cow path that goes directly from the road onto the door. That's so classic. I think we have a photo of that somewhere. It's so awesome because when people it's also like when they tell you, I'm going over, but when you go to a store and they tell you they have like 2 doors and one of them says entering or exit and enter, and they're right next to each other, and your car's like that way, so you want to take the thing that says whatever the entrance. So I tell my son I am entering the outside, so I'm good. Even though it says exit, I'm entering the outside, or I'm exiting the inside, so I can take either one.
There's a huge big box store close to us that literally has like 4 doors, and then 2 of them say enter and the 2 of them say exit, but it's the same space. There's no separation inside. And then if you go into the wrong one, there's a guard on the inside that makes you go out. And you're like, but I'm physically in the same space. Like there is literally no reason to have this. And this wasn't like past COVID. This is 2 years ago they started doing this. They just, have to.
That's very nice from Johnny. And I'm Peeves seeing in real time people you've learned important stuff from. This was
Thanks,
great.
Johnny.
It definitely has been a lot of fun. We're definitely taking a break though, so I look for additional projects from us. I know I have a lot of plans for some new stuff. You can look at all of my stuff under the hashtag RaboTIL, just where I post all kinds of like tidbits and tips and new sort of things that I find everywhere. Don't forget Morton's new show using the hashtag, as far as I can tell. Or just ignore the hashtag because you're going to go, who knows what the heck.
Show and tell.
It's called Show and Tell.
Follow me on LinkedIn.
Yeah, just follow Morton, and you'll get a notification. And eventually, maybe he'll do a hashtag, or I think you may be publishing these on YouTube if people want to see the older versions of them.
Yeah, I'm backing them up on YouTube too.
Yeah, so awesome. Cool. All right, well, take us home, my friend.
Yeah, so I would really like to say thank you to everybody that's watched the shows over the last 3 months. It's been great to see all the comments from you and interact with the people that follow us on LinkedIn. So thanks for joining us for NAP, Not a Podcast. See you around.